Hello, YouTube. So maybe you're used to WoW, you've been playing it for a while, you understand Mythic Plus, or maybe you're quite new and you're trying to learn Fellowship from a blank slate and you don't understand a lot of these terms that people might be using in your group. You might be saying things like kick and dispel, interrupt, CC, etc., shroud, things like this. And you're just like, what do these things mean? In this video, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about some of the things you can expect to hear and see, but then also talk about some things that you personally can do and handle that's going to drastically improve your chances of success in dungeons. I don't know about you, but I am failing most of the dungeons that I'm playing, and it comes down to a couple of core things that are going wrong that are contributing to these failures. So, the big one, I think, is interrupting. This might also be, you might see people type kick. The lore of this is that in World of Warcraft, back in the day, the original class that could interrupt was Rogue, and its interrupt was called kick. That then permeated through the WoW community, so a lot of people these days just say kick. It's also quicker than typing interrupt. So people will just say kick. What they mean by that is interrupt. Now, you can see here on my screen that there's actually an option to highlight a mob, focus a mob. It will then change the bar color of that mob so you know it's the mob that you're looking to interrupt. But it will put your character's portrait, or if somebody else has focused that mob to interrupt them, it will put their portrait on the mob so that then everyone else in the group knows, I'm kicking this mob, you kick that mob. And everybody should then be following that by actually following through and interrupting the mob. Some people do, some people don't. Some people mark the mob and then don't end up kicking. Right here, I'm going to kick that. So now everybody knows mine is on cooldown for 20 seconds. If you want to have this setting, I can show you it's right here in game, just in the interrupt targeting here. You can just make like a keybind, and then there's some other options that you can mess around with if you so choose. But I can just do, I can do that there. In fact, I think there's a mouse over option, is there not? Oh, yeah, mouse over interrupt target. Yeah, that's really nice. So now I don't even have to be targeting the mob. I can just move my... And I think I might be able to kick the mob that I'm not even focusing on. So if I'm touching this mob, but I mark that guy, and then I interrupt... Okay, no, it's still interrupting my... Oh, but because I mouse overed, yeah. So it should work as a mouse over. So even though I'm targeting this guy, if I mouse over this one, it should, in theory, kick them. But okay, maybe there's not a good way of displaying that right now. I'd have to try that in practice in a dungeon. But that's all well and good. So interrupting is super important. Now, the number one thing with interrupting is it's not just as simple as press interrupt. There's also the case of knowing what is valuable as an interrupt and what is not. The Bully Basher in this group, for example, has a really important kick. However, some other mobs are gonna, or a really important cast, some other mobs are gonna have things that aren't that big of a deal, and if the cast goes through, it's gonna do a bit of damage to your tank, but your tank knows that damage is incoming, so they're dealing with it, they've got defenses rolling, they should be okay. I'm not going to go through absolutely every single thing that you should kick right now on this video, because it's extensive. I will do dungeon guides. If you guys want me to do dungeon guides, I will happily make those for you, going through routes and important mobs, things that should be like dealt with, and how you can deal with them. But not everything needs to be interrupted, and you'll learn that as time goes by. You'll notice, oh, that mob casted Shadow Lob, and then somebody disappeared. Okay, maybe that needs to be kicked, but maybe the other thing that's being cast doesn't need to be kicked. Okay, cool. And the designers are good at throwing things in the game that are like these red herrings. You think you need to kick them, but actually you don't really. And it's to kind of trick you so that then when the thing that does really need to be kicked once every 20 seconds comes through, everyone's out of kicks. They don't have anything left remaining. Now, also with interrupting, there's also the ability to CC. So, CC stands for crowd control. Every DPS and tank, maybe healer, I'm not sure, has the ability to crowd control mobs. Now, you're going to see right here, this Venom Drinker is casting Poisonado. This is going to put a tornado on the ground. It's going to move around. It's going to give some space denial. It's kind of going to be a bit annoying. So my tank is going to be the first person to deal with this by using a crowd control ability. They're playing Mako, so they'll be using their Cyclone. That's going to just pull everything in together and interrupt that CC. Or it's going to do a CC and it's going to interrupt the non-interruptible cast that's going on. Figure that one out. I, as a Audios main, I have the ability, so I'm going to do, well, I was leaning to do that one, but then they got knocked, but I have on my T button, I can't remember what the name of the ability actually is, but that allows me to disorient a mob, which is a type of crowd control. Disorient just stands for type of crowd control. Disorient, so I can use that on the Poisonado. I can also use it as a interrupt, say we're out of interrupts as a group. I can use that and it will work as an interrupt on the mob. Some mobs, these gargantuan mobs, giant mobs, or like mini boss mobs, they are unkickable. Oh, sorry, they are unCCable, but they can be kicked. So that's where you want to kick them, but you won't be able to CC them. That's just something to keep in mind. Now, when it gets to healers, you don't have an interrupt, but you have a dispel. Dispel is the healing mechanic equivalent, and it's very important, paramount that you do it right. In this dungeon right here, you can see that there's like a little blue fold in the corner, and then there'll be a blue border ability on the nameplate. That shows you that it is dispellable. Some things won't be dispellable, but there'll still be a debuff on a player. The things that you care about as a healer are the dispellable ones. Well, you care about both, but you care about using your dispel when you can. Now, in this dungeon, again, another little red herring, there are little sacks of gold on the ground. So this debuff is actually a positive buff. And the game purposefully kind of masks that by making them the same effect, just blue little bordered abilities. Some of those are beneficial to the player that has it on them. Some of those are negative. Most of them are negative. You will have noticed in the final boss of the Everdawn Grove, I think it's called, the final boss will put a red circle on a player, and that player needs to stack up with everybody and then get dispelled, and it will detonate for damage split between the group. You have to dispel that as the healer kind of as quickly as possible. I mean, it doesn't really matter too much. Sometimes people lose a little bit of damage as a group if you dispel too slowly, but generally, just dispelling it at some point is fine. Trying to get it out as quick as possible is probably for the best, though. So learning what should and shouldn't be dispelled, what things are really dangerous on tanks compared to DPS, or DPS compared to tanks. Some things tanks can live very comfortably. Other things really need to get dispelled from the tank because they're going to get, like, you know, a reduced healing received debuff on a DPS probably isn't a big deal if there's not that much damage going out on the DPS at that point in time. However, if you're on the if there's a reduced healing received on a tank and they're tanking a bunch of mobs and they're like Mako and you're doing a lot of self-healing, that's really nasty. So you want to get it off the tank first. So certain spells will want to be dispelled off of different targets in different priorities, right? It's triaging. So then you have focus targets and funnel. You will notice some mobs in packs will have more health than others, sometimes double or triple the amount, right? It's important, and some of these mobs are really scary, really nasty. So in this dungeon, for example, if I zoom ahead, you can see these massive red mobs, the Carrion Horror. This mob has like over 1 million health compared to the 700,000 or so that the other mobs have. This mob is going to take longer to kill, so the longer you take to kill that mob, the slower your dungeon. Everything else should passively cleave as should be cleaved down as you're killing that priority mob, so that things die roughly at the same time, right? And you can see here that's what's happening. However, the Carrion Horror is specifically more dangerous because it does a massive AoE hit on everybody if it lives for too long and eventually gets around to doing its spellcast. So this is where understanding what mobs are dangerous, what mobs have more health, what mobs need to be prioritized. People call it a prio, or people will say to do funnel. Funnel just means that you are trying to basically prioritize a main target whilst cleaving other things. Same thing as prio target, funnel. Yeah, that sort of stuff is just focus on the main target. Then, so that's focus targets, that's interrupts, that's dispels. Defensive usage is the next one that is absolutely massive as well. This is going to keep you alive. Why put the hands of your health in the hands of the healer when you can put it in your own hands and you can be the master of your own destiny? So you can see here, Shift D on my bar is my defensive as Audios. It puts a little shield on me when I press it because I have the talent upgrade. This is going to sound silly, but I promise you to some people it's going to be very helpful. Press your defensive before lots of damage comes in, not afterwards. It's better to prevent... A lot of defensives work by giving you a shield or reducing damage taken by X% for a duration of time. If you're at 100% HP and you put a 40% damage reduction on yourself before damage comes in, that's going to leave you in a way healthier spot than taking a hit that takes you down to 30% health, and then you put on your 40% DR. Relative, there might still be a mechanic that can kill you because you're low health, even with that damage reduction on you. Compared to if you're at maximum health and you put that damage reduction on you, it's unlikely that things are going to be able to kill you from that point if you're getting healed and stuff as well. Now, it can still happen. You get chain things, if you get a mob cast on you and there's an AoE hit that goes out and you have this like debuff on you, like it can happen. You can still die with a defensive rolling, but it massively reduces that likelihood. Also, if you're using your defensive before the damaging comes, that means that your health pool drops lesser compared to some people that might not have a defensive. That means the healer can spend more energy and mana on the person that's low health compared to you. So make your healer's life easier. Look to use your defensive regularly. I mean, for me, my defensive is a 30-second cooldown. It's a 40% damage reduction and gives me a shield like at the beginning and at the end. It's kind of OP, and it's only a 30-second CD. So try and use your defensive as much as possible. Obviously, make sure it actually makes sense. As you learn the dungeon, you'll learn what areas are problem areas for you as a DPS or a tank or a healer, and when you can be looking to use that. Now, I think so. If you really want to be like a pro, this is kind of more of a top tip. If you really want to be a pro, sometimes mobs will be casting on you. I mean, is there maybe a VOD of me in Sailor's Abyss, maybe somewhere? Sometimes you can see when a mob is casting on you, and it can warn you to use to either use a defensive or to move out from the group early so that you can get dispelled. A really good example of this is Sailor's Abyss. Here we go. Perfect. Okay, hopefully I get a good little perspective of this. So on this boss, she's going to cast Undertow. Undertow is going to target, she's going to cast it on 2 players back to back. When she casts Undertow, she's going to focus on a player and start casting it at them. If you're paying a bit of attention, you can actually see as she's casting, if you wiggle your character and you notice the boss wiggle back and forth or whatever, follow your direction, follow your movement, then you know it's being cast on you. So you can then look to move out earlier, right? You're going to see me pre-position here. Undertow's coming in. Well, after this. See ya. Sorry that we got that on VOD. So Undertow's being cast. I can see the boss is facing me. I know it's on me. I'm in position. I know it's on me. I'm already ready to get dispelled. I can get dispelled. And then I can... I think I did manage that in time. And then I can hide for the Screech. So that's a really good thing to do. You can do it in normal packs of mobs as well. I find myself doing it, especially on range mobs who are out from the rest of the group and there's less obscured like vision on them. You can see if a mob turns to you and starts casting on you. It can be a bit tricky if you're a melee and stuff, so it's not always like, it's not foolproof, but it's something that you can do. It can be helpful. Again, I can see I'm being cast on there because the boss turns and looks at me, so I can go and get in position early, ready for a dispel. Fantastic. So that's like a advanced thing, I would say. That's something that is like kind of a bit of a min-maxy thing. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is just item level in general. So I hear from some people that they're actually hoarding some of their resources. They're waiting until they get into the next league before they start spending things because they want to go into the new league and then be able to upgrade the new gear that they get. Which is like a good. I mean, there's not necessarily anything like majorly wrong with that, and you know that can definitely work. But the way the game works is it's kind of encouraging you to want to use resources as you're getting them to get you further through the game as quickly as possible. So spend your gold. If I was to, so let's say I take, where's a piece of gear that I care about? I don't care about any of these pieces of gear. It's a bit of a shame. But, I mean, I guess my shoulders. So if I go to scrap these shoulders, they're worth 14 gold. If I now go and upgrade these shoulders and spend 21 gold, so what was it, 14 gold to scrap? It should be worth an extra 10 gold, roughly. Yeah. So, because I've sunk some gold into these shoulders, they're now worth more when I sell them. It's the base rate plus 50% of whatever you've spent on upgrading them. So, actually, the game is encouraging you, like, go and upgrade your gear. We will give you something back later for having consumed some resources on this. The game is encouraging you to spend your resources, to spend your supplies and your mark of fellowship to just get you to the next level. So it's important that you do that because as you get through the new ranks, you're going to get way more gold at the end of each like piece of content. You're going to get way more resources. All of your gear is going to be worth more. So as gear's dropping and you're scrapping it, you're going to be making more gold from it and stuff each time anyway. So you may as well go and just start upgrading. Now, the last thing I guess I can talk about is just a general thing. Right now in the game, we're in a position where there's a lot of new play. I mean, everybody's new, right? And people are still climbing through the ranks in the different leagues. And people are not necessarily at stages where they've outgeared their skill level. So people are, it sounds harsh, but people are bad and they're undergeared at times. So it's a double whammy. People don't know, like, they're undergeared, they're unaware of what they need to interrupt and dispel and CC and defensive, etc., and what they need to prioritize. People are still learning their classes, and they might be in, like, bad talent builds, etc., which is fine. It's a game, have fun, enjoy, that's all good. But what will eventually happen is people will outgear that skill level, and people will outgear some of these issues. So there might be some people who sort of get, like, hard-stuck adept, for example, a hard-stuck champion, or hard-stuck paragon, or whatever, but they'll keep getting gear just, you know, through attrition. Like, they'll just get gear from just, like, they deplete a bunch, but they still get gear because just the law of averages, they'll complete dungeons eventually, you know, and they'll just kind of slowly work their way through, but they'll eventually get, like, over-geared for adept. They'll have everything maxed out, they'll have everything fully empowered, and they're actually out-geared for the +3 that they're running in, like, adept or something. So eventually things will sort of catch up where people will be over-geared for the content that they're running. That's what happens in WoW, and you'll find people that aren't necessarily the best players, but they've outgeared a lot of the content, which just makes it easier on everybody else. So that kind of stuff will start to happen, and it's actually, it has some positive connotations and some negative ones. But in a solo queue system, I don't really think there are too many negatives really to that kind of system. So, yeah, people will sort of just outgear their skill level and things will kind of level out. Last thing I want to say is go play tank because there aren't enough of them and you get quicker queues. And, yeah, hopefully some of these things have been helpful and you maybe learned some stuff that you didn't know already before. And I appreciate you guys watching. I want to do more guides. I would love to do some dungeon guides, actually, if you guys want to see those. Go through, like, pack to pack, some things that are good to pull, some things that maybe not so much, and what kind of things to look out for. Just some basic, simple routes that you can follow quite easily. Things that I've been doing on my tank, for example, just to get us through the key fairly, relatively unscathed, and make things simple for people to deal with. But yeah, if you want to see those dungeon guides, let me know. I'll be happy to make them. I'd also be happy to make guides on classes if you want to, you know, so far I've been playing a lot of audios. I finally have it figured out with Mako as well. I understand how this champ works now, so I can happily do a guide on this. Yeah, let me know, and I'll do those things for you. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Take care. See you in the next one.